Welcome to the next session. In this, we will learn a little about the Plotly library before we start using it to create graphs. So, what is a Plotly? Plotly is an open source data visualization library for Python and R written in JavaScript, making graphs inherently interactive. So, like we have a ggplot, it is sometimes even referred to as a cousin of ggplot. So, ggplot is also a very good library for creating the graphs, but Plotly gives you more freedom to create the interactive graphs and the graphs that you basically create for usage on web applications. For example, if you do not want to take the printout of the graph for your thesis or something, but you want to publish your graph on a web page and you want the user to be able to interact with your graph. So that's where Plotly is very useful. So it can be modified tremendously and are easily exported as images or HTML, etc. So, like I said, why should I go for Plotly, which is explained in the next slide. Plotly gives you a higher degree of control over how the graph is eventually displayed to the user. Benefits of Plotly. Other popular libraries such as Matplotlib or ggplot, they just do it, but they do not allow you the control that you look for. So something about Plotly's out of the box visuals that just pop a little more. So something like we say about a person, he looks a little bit more flamboyant than the others. So same way, Plotly lets you do much more than the other libraries. Plotly also comes with a wide variety of possible graph types, many of which can also be animated. And in the end, the fact that any plots you create with Plotly, let's say using the Jupyter Notebook, can be essentially copied and pasted into Dash applications. So they are very useful for the quick implementation of a dashboard. So how you can install a Plotly, so not going too much into the detail of that. So simply you can open the command prompt where the Python, Anaconda Python is, it is already available. So you can simply use the pip command. So pip install Plotly and the Plotly will be available on your system and you can use it to create the graphs. Sub modules of the Plotly. So when I say we are going to use the Plotly to create the graph, so what are the different scenarios in which I can use it? Express. It is a high level interface for data visualization, but obviously it is used when there is a need of quick visualization. But data often needs to be structured in certain ways that you want. If the data is not available in that format, then obviously it may not be that useful. IO, the low level interface for displaying, reading, and writing figures. Now, what's the difference? The difference is that if your data is already in the required JSON format, then it is good. If it is not, then obviously this is also not very useful. Now, what we are going to use in this example in the next video tutorial and what everyone uses is the graph objects. Why we use graph objects? Because they give you a high degree of control over how you can display your graphs. A low level interface to figures, traces, and layouts. You will definitely learn about these. Highly customizable. That means a high degree of control with a crazy number of possible graph types. You just cannot imagine the number or type of graphs that you can create using the graph objects. So different components of the Plotly basically divided into two categories. One is the data on which we are going to work. So data is the information about the type of plot which the Plotly library needs to draw. So it is all about what type of plot that you want to do. So what plotting you need to perform. It consists of the list of plots in a chart where each plot is called a trace. So basically, it means it's not talking about just one, but multiple charts as well. And whereas layout forms the look of the chart. So how the chart is eventually going to look like, its background, grid, font, etc. That is anything other than the data. So framework. So how we are eventually going to create a graph using the Plotly library. So these are the following steps that you can see. The first step is loading the data. Sometimes the data is already ready, so you can use the data. And sometimes you have to create the data. Data can be in the forms of arrays, matrices, frames. So the data is available and we can use that data to create the graphs. Instantiate a figure object. So basically it is talking about instantiating a graph object. So we already know in the previous slide that a graph object is everything. So it is where the decisions are taken, what type of plot and how we are going to do it. Traces. Traces is all about data. So what we are going to plot, the data is the trace. Traces are simply individual data sets being plotted on a given figure object. So we have the data, the type of object of the graph, and then converting those data into the traces. And the last is update the figure layout. This is where we define all the labels like our title, axis, titles, legends, if you have multiple uh, uh, plots, etc. Templates set the background color, text font, etc., and can be customized as you like. So basically, when we talk about the control, the way we display it, everything comes under the update the figure layout. So this is a very little brief introduction of what the Plotly is. So now that we also know what the Plotly is, what are the basic steps, what are the basic components, now we are ready to implement or create the basic graphs using the Plotly library in the Jupyter Notebook. And I hope that you will enjoy the next session and create new graphs and see how we can actually interact with those graphs and how we can make them customizable. Thank you.